Where we come from, that's our rural home. Well, I was in Lupani and in Kai, so I grew up in both places. And, I did my primary education at Daluga Primary School.
Where is it?
It's in Lupani.
Oh, in Lupani.
Yeah, I did my primary education in Lupani. And then, we were interrupted by the Liberation War. Then I had to, move from the rural areas to town. So I completed my primary education at Matebele Primary School. And then from there I went to Ihlati Secondary School. I had a stint at Founders High School before, one of those events took place, and so that's me. I have worked before. I worked for Edgar's group of companies.
Okay.
And I left Edgar's. I went to Spaces Colleges, and from there I went to Intel Holdings.
I'm just trying to square this. You were in Edgar's, now Spaces College.
Yeah.
These are different companies.
Yeah, they are indeed.
Yeah. So what sort of things were you doing in organization?
Edgar's is a retail outlet.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was in retail management at Edgar's.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I left Edgar's unceremoniously, though, I must admit, because there was so much issues of tribalism.
All right. Yeah.
And I had a fight with some middle management guys, and the fight was over the fact that I think I was too resistant
to what?
To their agenda.
Which was?
No, they were bringing people from outside, to come and take over jobs,
Yeah.
And they would force you. It's either you belonged to one group or another. Okay. And there were two factions. You had the Mashonaland West faction and you had the Masungo faction.
Okay.
So it was either you belonged to the Masungo faction or you belonged to the Zulu faction.
Right.
So I never saw eye to eye with either groups. So they tried to get rid of me, to send me to go and manage or supervise a branch outside Bulawayo.
Okay.
My agenda was here. So I could tell that the whole idea was designed to remove me from the center of power, where I was in charge.
Okay.
Of also extending the facility of contract work, casual work to some of our people from the region.
Yeah.
But they bring in people from outside, and so then they tried to. It was promotion by elimination. Yeah. They wanted to send me to Kwelu, but I refused.
You have already touched a very pertinent issue, particularly in the region of Matebele.
Yeah.
If you stand up for the rights of the people of Matebele land, be it employment rights, you are viewed as a tribalist. What's your view on that?
I think we have a problem as a people, and the problem is that we have adopted our own definition of tribalism in Zimbabwe, which is not orthodox. Yeah. So meaning people will view us as Amandebele. They view us as a tribe, and we also view Amashona as a tribe. But the truth of the matter is, as the Ndebele people, we are a nation comprised of a multitude of tribes.
Yeah.
The Shona people, as we know them today, they are also a nation by the making of the colonialists.
Yeah.
And they have got their own tribes. And I think they're about you have the Sena, the Njanja, the Korekore, the Zezuru, and so on and so forth. So they also form their own nation. So now I want us to be clear that are we going to use the term tribalism as it is currently used in Zimbabwe, or I think stick to the orthodox definition?
No, I think it would be best for us to use it as the majority of people are using it, so that people can understand exactly what is going on.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I think I had asked you, what's your view on that in terms of if you are from Matebele land and you stand for the rights of the people, particularly the employment sector, you are viewed as a tribalist. Then I asked you, what is your view on that?
I think we need to be clear that we are a people who deserve to be respected. We are a people who deserve to respect, as we have always respected. And I would expect a situation where if there's employment opportunities in a place such as Bulawayo, appreciating that Bulawayo is cosmopolitan, but we must understand that the nature of a cosmopolitan city means that you would have people coming in from elsewhere who should also have the right to access employment wherever they are, but it must be on merit. There are situations where you would find a person coming in as a general hand to work at a supermarket in the heart of Bulawayo, and that person does not have even O levels, but you have got a child, you live in Makokova, you've got a child who can work at Macro as a general hand. Why wouldn't you find it appropriate that Macro employs your child rather than employing someone who come from outside Bulawayo to come and take over that job? And that person does not have the qualifications that your child has. So I think we need to understand that my point is, let's avail opportunities to locals. Where we are unable as a local authority, as a district, as a province, to provide employment or to provide employees to the potential employer, who in most cases will be private sector and the government, then there's no problem with the potential employer resorting to bringing in exotic employees or bringing in people from other regions to come and take over employment. There's nothing wrong with that. So I don't believe in tribalism. I'm not a tribalist. I'm born and rooted in ZAPU. I'm born to ZAPU, to a ZAPU family. My father was the chairman of ZAPU, responsible for logistics, the whole of Matebele and North. And we have that background where tribalism in our family was punishable. If you were heard uttering any tribal word, any denigrating word, on anyone, you would know that it was coming your way. So I'm that kind of a person whose background in terms of appreciation and the way how I look at the issue of tribalism is influenced by, one, the way how my parents viewed the issue of tribalism. Number two, informed by the upbringing that we have in ZAPU, where ZAPU was a party for everyone, irrespective and regardless of who you were or where you were from. So my view on tribalism is predicated on what I just given.
You have mentioned merit. That's one concept that I think is misused sometimes. I would like us to touch on it maybe later, but for now, you were giving us your chronology. And whether it is possible for ZAPU right now to bring about that vision that Joshua Nkomo espoused for a one nation Zimbabwe.
As I had indicated to you earlier on, that there is a possibility, and that hinges on whether ZAPU can find a leader who can replace Dr. Joshua Nkomo.
If you say Dr. Joshua Nkomo,
Yeah.
because we know the last leader was Dr. Tavengo.
Yes.
So why do you skip Tavengo?
No, I'm not skipping to Mr. Tavengo. No, but I think what we're talking about here is the vision of ZAPU as espoused by Dr. Joshua Nkomo.
Okay.
Okay. So
is it different from what ZAPU under Dr. Tumizo Tavengo espoused?
well, not they're not diametrically the same, but
Okay.
I mean, you know, can we zero on the ZAPU, Dr. Joshua Nkomo's vision?
That's fine.
of one Zimbabwe?
Let's talk
Yeah.
about that.
Because what probably we need to emphasize is this: Nkomo's vision of one nation Zimbabwe is a vision that can also be equally achieved when confined to Matebele as a one nation Matebele. What Nkomo wanted to achieve for the broader Zimbabwe, we can still achieve it for Matebele, because Matebele is a nation. Now, the One Zimbabwe, One Nation agenda, as I have said, that this is what Dr. Joshua Nkomo said to achieve. This is what ZAPU fought for. This is what ZAPU always propagated. That we want a non-sexist ZAPU or nation. We want a non-racial nation. We want a non-tribal nation. By non-tribal meaning there is no one who should be given an opportunity on grounds that he belongs to a particular tribe. But we want all tribes in Zimbabwe to have equal access to opportunities in Zimbabwe. And we, ZAPU, believed in a nation where rule of law was for everyone, where the law was for everyone. ZAPU believed in a nation that would fend for itself, provide for itself, and export the surplus. And ZAPU believed that in a normal environment where the government is responsible, the people must hold the government to account. The government must not be accountable to an oligarchy. The government must be accountable to the people. And these are some of the values that ZAPU stood for. Now, the problem is that from 1980, there are people who have been working so tirelessly against the identity of the Ndebele people. Anyone who is identified as Ndebele, anything identified as Ndebele, they have been fighting so tirelessly to make sure that they don't allow it to succeed. And as a result, the children born to these people in 1980 and just towards independence, some of whom are my age, you know, those born before independence, towards independence, those born immediately at independence and after independence, they grew up in an environment where there was so much hatred for the Ndebele people. To an extent that it is now almost a certainty in Zimbabwe that there is no Ndebele person who can be president. So we have to undo that psychological problem that the people have. You know, because it's a psychological problem. They have been indoctrinated into believing that that is the status quo, that is how things ought to be.
It seems like you think this indoctrination has only affected those coming from, let's say, Mashonaland Park.
No.
What about
the
Ndebeles themselves?
No, I'm not in any way insinuating that. But what I'm saying is, the Ndebele people, you hear them talking about the situation where, look, why should we worry? After all, we'll never rule Zimbabwe. You know, this has not, they have not been indoctrinated to believe so. No, these ones are actually feeling it. It's different from those who are made to believe so. Those who are causing our people never to rise to positions of senior authority or to become the first person in the country. I think it's chapter 5 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. It almost makes it impossible for a person of a Matebele extraction
How
to become a I mean, look at the composition of how the president is elected. You know, I mean, for you, Comrade Nkala, to be nominated by Mashonaland Central, Mashonaland West, Mashonaland East as a candidate for the first secretary and the first person in a political party that has got an opportunity to actually ascend to power in Zimbabwe. It is almost impossible. You can go back to what has happened even in the movement for democratic change. You see that the way how things have happened, people tell you that the person who was supposed to be the president of the MDC is the late Gibson Spanda. But Gibson Spanda was overtaken by Morgan Tsvangirai to become the president of MTC because Tsvangirai hailed from Mashonaland and Gibson Spanda was from Matebele. And you recall that there was an unfortunate remark that was made by one of our historic colleagues in the political fraternity, who himself alluded to the fact that Ndebeles can never lead any political party in Zimbabwe, but though they later on went on to lead their own political party. But there wants to make it meaningfully in the next plebiscite. So this is where we are. And I think ZAPU prides itself as a non-tribal party. It prides itself as a party that is committed to meritocracy. It's a party that is committed to those core values of humanity and the respect for the rule of law. So much that if anyone who identifies with those values is welcome in ZAPU. But you have to be careful that what you need is a vote. And you need a vote from a person who is subjected to untold suffering, marginalization, etc., by the ruling elite. And this ruling elite, it is known that they belong to a particular clan or a particular nation. And so where does ZAPU fit in? Exactly. Now, it is the responsibility of the next leader to define where ZAPU stands. And whoever takes over as the next leader of ZAPU should understand that ZAPU as a party must aspire for office. And it can either choose to aspire for the national office at presidential level, or it can be pragmatic and aspire to capture the bedrock support of ZAPU, where ZAPU used to be in the past. That is in the 53 constituencies that you have in Matebele and North Matebele and South, in Bulawayo and in the Midlands. Because the challenge that ZAPU faces is this. We have a lot of people who believe that ZAPU can be launched, and it can attract votes from Murewa, from wherever. And the question that needs to be, or the reality that needs to be faced is this. You remember that at the height of ZAPU, where ZAPU had out of his 6 top leaders in its position, 5 of them were from Mashonaland. ZAPU could not win a constituency there. And they will tell you it was because of intimidation, this and that, but we had another election in 1985. And you will see that while this ZAPU wants to give its attention to everyone from across the country, there's nothing wrong with that. And ZAPU must pursue that route. But it must be mindful in wasting resources where they will not get anything. So, unless and until the psychology that I've been talking about is reversed, it will be very difficult for ZAPU to penetrate some of these areas. Because it is the children of those who saw me and you as an enemy who are actually voters today, who are in leadership position today. And we are gunning for their vote. We're canvassing for them to come to the party. And ask yourself, how possible is that? How feasible is that? But there's nothing wrong with ZAPU trying, but it must accept that at some point it has to come face to face with reality. It has to come face to face with reality.
And what is that reality?
Well, it is for the leader. It is for the next leader.
I'm not saying you are the leader.
No,
you are aspiring to be the leader. Maybe you are, but I don't know. But what I'm trying to milk from you is to help maybe the person who's going to be the next leader, if there will be any next leader. That
seems about the party, where it should go, if
we were talking about ZAPU.
Yes.
And I was asking you that many people, be they from Matebele, be they from Mashonaland, they have seen ZAPU as a regional party, and some have seen it as a tribal party. What is your view? What is ZAPU? Is it regional, national party?
Unfortunately, part of the way how we understand politics in Zimbabwe is that we take it from the spectacles of ZANU-PF. That's the most unfortunate part that we have, because the way how they will define a regional party or a tribal party, if ZAPU were to be labeled and branded as a tribal party, in as far as they are concerned, a party is tribal if the person who is at the helm of that party, the president of the party, is non-Shona. That is what they mean when they say a party is tribal.
Okay.
ZAPU, you remember that at the time when ZAPU had the likes of Wawisto and Chambati, ZAPU had Omsiga, ZAPU had Ochinamano, and they would still label ZAPU as a tribal party because the person who was the first person was a Ndebele person. So according to the diction of ZANU-PF, which they have passed on to the generality of the Shona population, is that a party that is tribal is a party that is led by Ndebele. And that's very unfortunate, because ZAPU has never been a tribal party. ZAPU has never stood to champion the rights, and rightfully so, of the Tonga people on their own, of the Venda people on their own, of the Kalanga people on their own, of the Sutu people on their own, of the Nambians. No, ZAPU has never done that. ZAPU has always been a national party, and it will remain a national party. It is the only party that has projected geo-nationalism and embraced it within its ranks. In the sense that it has represented and accepted people from the Matebele nation in their entirety. It has opened arms and still does so to people from Mashonaland, irrespective of their tribal inclinations. So when you bring these two nations together and you allow them to coexist in a political party, that's what I mean by ZAPU being a geo-nationalist party, or geo-national party. It has accepted both nations as equal partners within its ranks, and this is how it's been. You remember that the ZAPU that was led by the late Dumisu. He had his deputy at some point in time was a lady from Mashonaland called Mukaratiwa. But they will still view ZAPU as a tribal party. But when a party is led by someone like Mr Magonya, they don't consider it a tribal party, because that person, presumably or by their own fertile imaginations, they believe that they are the people. So ZAPU is not a tribal party.
Okay. Seeing that the political field in Zimbabwe is a minefield, the current ZAPU,
yes,
how can it maneuver to make things work for the entirety of Zimbabwe? And how can it maneuver things to make them work maybe for the nation of Ntoras? So in short, what I'm trying to ask you is, what's the way forward for Zimbabwe as a nation? And what's the way forward for Ntoras as a nation?
Let me begin by acknowledging that politically we are at crossroads. What I say today may not live to be relevant in the not so long a future, because the political situation in Zimbabwe is very dynamic and it is very uncertain. We don't know where we'll be in the next coming 2 or 3 months. But that aside, let me come back to your question. What is the way forward for Ntoras?
Yeah.
And what's the way forward for Zimbabwe?
Yeah.
And where does ZAPU come in? I think the issue that as a people we have to come to terms with is to understand that there are people today who were with the system yesterday when some of us were calling for the recognition of the efforts of the people of Matebele. And they are the very same people who were asking the system to give us a deaf ear. They are the very same people who are being unleashed on us by the system. But I think for the generality of the people of the Matebele nation, the time is approaching where we have to come to terms with the reality and decide as a collective what we want. If the people of Matebele were to resolve, and unanimously so, and unequivocally so, that as of today, we, the children of the stars, we resolve that we are taking back our sovereignty from Zimbabwe. We want to leave Zimbabwe and become a sovereign state on our own. If the people of Matebele were to resolve to that effect, and they wholly subscribe to the idea, they must be prepared to pursue that idea to the bitter. And it is an ideal whose time could be now or not long from now. And it is an ideal that as the people of Matebele, we should collectively come together and pursue, if the masses were to come to terms and say that is what they want. If the people of Matebele were today make a decision that they want to voluntarily become part and parcel of the sovereign Zimbabwe, they must be shepherded in that direction. But they will only do so if they see that there are any benefits accruing to them and their progeny in the event that they were to voluntarily become a part and parcel of the Zimbabwe state.
But they are. We know that since 1980 they've been part of Zimbabwe.
Yes. Look, they are involuntary decisions that you make. They are voluntary decisions that you will make. And what I would urge people to do for now is that I think everyone should work in tandem with the current efforts that are pursued by the organization called Iputeho.
Okay.
Yes, I think people must take Iputeho with the seriousness that it deserves. So whatever it is that...
Maybe, because you have mentioned that, maybe if you can just give us a background of what Iputeho is.
Well, from my understanding, it is an indaba. It is an indaba.
So a platform.
Yeah, a platform where people of Matebele and civic organizations, individuals, and political parties, and decide on the way forward for Matebele. So,
and what informs that? What's the inspiration?
It is the people's experiences. It is the people's experiences. If you want to, one way of testing that you are colonized, you have to go into government departments, go into the police stations. You find that if you find that people who head these departments, they are all non-indigenous to the people in the area. You should know that you are a people who are colonized. So, I think what the efforts of Iputeho will produce, people will have to go by what Iputeho comes up with. Because it is the people themselves who are coming together. So who am I and who are you to go against the wishes of the masses? If the masses so resolve that way, if you are convinced that what they've come up with is the right thing to do, you have to come through that goal. If they so resolve that they want to be part and parcel of the sovereign Zimbabwe, and voluntarily so, I think people have to find a modus operandi of getting people of Matebele land to become part and parcel of the sovereign Zimbabwe, and voluntarily so, where they will be respected as a people, where opportunities will be afforded to them equally as they are afforded to any other person in the whole of Zimbabwe.
And that is a very interesting thing. But what is it that they can do to be regarded as equals in Zimbabwe?
Look, freedom cannot be given to you on a platter. You must be prepared that if you can't give me what I deserve, I must be prepared to take it from you by force. If we can't talk humanely and we agree that you give me what rightfully deserves, belongs to me, and that what I rightfully deserve. Look, it is a universal charter that people must be respected. We have human rights. We have a human rights charter under the United Nations. There's a human rights convention, both in the SADC, in the African Union, and the United Nations, and all that So, we have to rally behind the efforts of Iputeho. Now, this is my view, Comrade Gal. The future for Zimbabwe, with Matebele land as a bedrock, this is how I see it. Now, it is up to ZAPU to decide. ZAPU has got 3 options at its disposal. One, ZAPU can opt to represent the nation of Matebele's without discriminating the nation of Mashonaland. And it can do so by accepting reality beforehand that in the 2023 plebiscite, they cannot afford to field candidates the whole of Zimbabwe. And therefore, they can effectively field candidates in the 53 to 64 constituencies in the Midlands, Matebele and North, South and Bulawayo. And once they do that, they can then prepare themselves for a coalition with any other party between MDC and whether it's ZANU-PF or the G40 if they were to mutate into a new party, or whosoever. But then they can go into a coalition, and they must have conditions for them to go into a coalition with anyone. And that condition, as we make decisions as the people of Matebele, we must understand, and clearly so, that in Matebele we have a new tribe. And that tribe, it is the Shona people who settled in our areas and who have identified with us and who continue to do so. So when we make decisions, we must be mindful that that is the current composition of Matebele. So we want a Matebele for anyone who lives in it, anyone who identifies with it. And so we can get the 53 to 64 constituencies, and then we form a coalition with whoever has got some seats between MDC and ZANU-PF, or whatever political parties that will have seats from Mashonaland areas. Now, that's possibly the most viable option that ZAPU will have. The second one is that ZAPU can close its eyes and go national and field candidates all over the 210 constituencies. They spread themselves so thinly in a very wide area where they will hardly be felt by anyone. And we know the consequences of that. The third one is to probably go into an alliance, not a coalition, but an alliance with another political party, and they go into the elections as an alliance. That's also a viable option. But what is it that causes people to exist separately? That's one thing that we need to identify and accept.
So when you're talking about an alliance, are you talking about maybe ZAPU having an alliance with MDC or with the ZANU-PF or any other political party?
Yes, but at the moment I don't think it is anything that is thinkable that we can have an alliance with ZANU-PF. Well, but you remember in politics there's no permanent enemy. Okay. But I'm saying that look, if ZAPU were to go into an alliance with MDC or with whichever the opposition party, the configuration at the ballot box is different, in structure different from when you are pursuing a coalition. So in an alliance, you don't field candidates against each other. You go in as one, just as good as what ANC is. So you have to field candidates, and you do so as a collective.
As a collective.
Yes.
You've been talking about Puteho as a platform whereby the people of Matebele will come together and sit down and come up with a credible way forward. Where is ZAPU in that?
ZAPU is a constituent member of Puteho. It does attend Puteho meetings. And my appeal is that ZAPU needs to bring back everyone home. ZAPU should open her arms and welcome everyone. There are people whom ZAPU has mistreated in the past or ill-treated in the past. There are people who left ZAPU and formed other organizations. We've got a plethora of organizations in Matebele land. You've got MRP. We all know MRP. That is ZAPU Youth Wing. They were the youth wing of ZAPU. For one reason or the other, the youths were kicked out of the party. They must be accepted back into the party. Mkondisi must be allowed to come back into the party. If he wants to contest for the leadership of the party, he must be allowed to do so. We've got people from MNP, Mabenas and them. They must be allowed back into the party. We've got people like who formed MLF from MLF. Dr. Churchill Kutuza and Kenya Nandi, and so they must all be allowed back into the party. You've got people like Oswela. You know that Oswela was being touted as the person who was supposed to lead ZAPU in 2009, but we all know what they did to him at the end of the day. But those people must be allowed back. Those people must be allowed back. We are a new ZAPU, and that new ZAPU must come with a new agenda. An agenda of inclusivity, an agenda that respects differing views, an agenda that will allow people of divergent political persuasions to come in and find a home in ZAPU and thrive. In the absence of that, I can see a clear road into abyss. I can see a clear road for the party into abyss. So that is the party that we want. We want a party for everyone. We want a party that respects individuals. We want a party that is rooted in understanding, civil liberties and the respect for individual liberties. And once we can chart a way forward as a people, once we come together and chart that way forward, I am convinced beyond doubt that the power of the masses can break any wall. And once people are allowed to come back into the party, and they see a party that resonates with their ideals, with their ambitions, it doesn't matter where they are. Whether they are in Manicaland, whether they are in Mashonaland, whether they are in Maswingo, once ZAPU becomes a party that has got that particular flair, that particular character, that color, I can assure you that ZAPU may not make it in the 2023 plebiscite. But come 2028, I don't foresee anyone challenging ZAPU. But what is key is that ZAPU must have the right person. It needs the right leader. And that leader must be part of an appropriate leadership. Once you do that, then the sky is the limit.
All right, I think you have accepted it. I'm just, aware that the time is gone.
Yes.
But I will give you a minute or two to say whatever you want to say, something that I haven't asked you. So if there is anything that you'd like to say.
My appeal, Comrade Nkala, to whoever is listening, is that people should find forgiveness in their hearts. People should be able to accept that they have wronged others, and where you know you've wronged someone, learn to have it in you to apologize. Unfortunately, we have had a political class that has found it appropriate to misrepresent the truth many a time. But if we can do some self-introspection as Zimbabweans and learn to be truthful, and we are all together in that Zimbabwe will never be a colony again. Mm-hmm. And by that narrative, we believe that Matebele should not be a colony at all. By that narrative, we believe that as a people, a one nation Zimbabwe is possible, but with a new configuration, different from the configuration that had been envisaged by the fathers of the liberation struggle. Times have changed. You know, we have evolved as a people, as a nation, and it is time to realize that a lot is possible together. We can make it. Zimbabwe can be a first world country in the next 23 years, not in 2023, in the next 23 years with the right leader. And Zimbabwe is not short of leadership. It's only that the leadership that should be counted in Zimbabwe, it's being elbowed out. They are not allowed anywhere near leadership. But at the right time, I'm sure that we will come together and be able to atone and forgive those who have wronged us, atone for our sins, forgive those who have wronged us, and also apologize to those whom we wronged, and then we move on as a nation. But no one should take any other person for granted. No one should take any other person for granted. Remember the words of Dr Joshua Nkomo. Nkomo said, there is no one who deserves to die because they belong to a political party which is different from the ruling party. We must accept the freedom of association as a So, yeah, we have to rally behind the efforts of Ipute. Now, this is my view, Comrade Gala. The future for Zimbabwe.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Magonya. It was an enlightening interview. Hope that very soon we will have another one. If you could just give your goodbyes to the people with whatever words you want to say to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Gala. And thank you, viewers, for listening, for taking your time to listen to this episode of the interview. And I hope and pray that at the right time, we will be able to find each other as a people with a common identity, as a people with a common agenda, as a people who share the same aspirations about our nation. And where possible, we should be the people who are charged with the responsibility of the reconstruction of a new Zimbabwe. I thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Magonya. It was an enlightening interview. We hope that very soon we will have another one. If you could just give your goodbyes to the people with whatever words you want to say to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Gala. And thank you, viewers, for listening, for taking your time to listen to this episode of the interview.